going to read kind of the incident, but you're here tonight because we just really want to recognize you and thank you. That took such quick thinking, such heart, such knowledge, and really did save a student's life. So, and then subsequently a news article was published, and apparently you're the most interesting man on earth.
My Facebook blew up, I'll tell you that.
You know, they just recently replaced the most interesting man on earth, but I'm sure if they knew about you, you know, they might be contacting.
But I'm from over here, I'm not from over there.
That's right. So, Ken then gave me Mr. Leach's statement. And he said, when the bell rang and parents began to show up, the bell schedule I had printed out was incorrect, and I quickly went next door to leadership in hopes that Miss Y would have a copy of the corrected schedule. Upon entering the room, I saw, and I'm going to use this alternate name, John, laying on the floor, struggling to breathe. A few students and special education teacher Mark Zeller were hovering over him. I immediately went into crisis mode and took over the situation. I requested that they call 911 and also to get me a bag. Patrick complained of chest pains and that he could not breathe. He was breathing but passing too much air. I hoped it was just hyperventilation. I talked to him and comforted him while waiting for the bag. The bag arrived and I placed it over his nose and mouth. He soon started to calm down and his breathing slowed. The bag was removed and Mark Zeller remained at the scene and helped move some of the furniture out of the way that had started. Okay, I'm gonna get my glasses. I thought I could fake my way through that, but let's see. That he'd started to grab, so apparently he started to grab furniture. I continued to talk gently to Patrick, telling him he was all right and asking him questions. Then his breathing became shallow and stopped. I checked for any airway obstruction and tilted his head. Still no breath. I performed mouth-to-mouth inhalations and I checked for a heartbeat. His heart was beating, so I did not do any compressions. Still no breath. I inflated his lungs a second and a third time. Then he let out a huge gasp and began breathing again. I was so relieved to hear his breath, I continued to soothe and comfort him. I continued to talk to him and checked his pupils for shock and clarity. He was not speaking and I could not tell if he was alert or could understand me. So I asked, "Can you recognize me?" I think he nodded. Then I said, "If you tell anyone that I kissed you, I'm gonna kick your butt." He smiled and gave a weak laugh and said something about wearing chapstick. Then I knew we were back on track. What a relief. I remained with him and the others until the ambulance got near. I turned the scene over to the principal Gardner and went back to my class of 12 parents who were wondering why I had left them alone for so long. I was frazzled. Crisis mode was over, and the reality of what had just happened began to flood my mind. And apparently, the chapstick comment, Mr. Leach, when he sees high school students being overly affectionate, he asks them if they're, what is it you ask them?
Anything about chapstick. Are you wearing your chapstick? Are you
Yeah.
checking for chapstick? You better have your chapstick on. Anything about that, because it just stops. That they don't get mad. They're like, okay, and then it breaks up the thing, and so that's my routine. I use it. Well, I won't say daily, but every time I see that happening, and so he's a student of mine since he was a freshman, so he knows my shtick. And so when he said, "I'm wearing chapstick," I knew, okay, we're cool. And so it's like, it's just a big relief. And I gotta say, you know, you never know what you're gonna do in a moment like that. You don't know. Am I gonna run? Am I gonna be effective? Am I gonna buckle? And you just hope that you got something in you that's gonna happen. And I got lucky, and I had the hope, and it happened. And John, aka somebody else, is around and kicking, and I saw him today. It's really nice to see him. I've known him since he was a freshman. His father's a great guy. He helped me wipe stools. He helped weld my stools back together in the art room. So we already had this connection from his freshman year. So now I think he's a senior. And so I have to say that his father said that he was upset with his son for getting, into the situation, but then he had a dream that night that I wasn't there, and his son was gone. And so,
take your time.
He woke up at 4 in the morning with this nightmare, and then he waited till 6 to wake his son up, and then they had their best day. Really good. And then I saw them both together. Sorry, it's a big. It seems like wow. It's all I can bury it, right? But you start talking to them, and it's like you gotta kind of get a little emotional. But being able to see John, that AKA kid, and his dad there at school, and there was a lot of hugging and of relief, and then I reminded his dad I still had 2 more stools that he could fix for me, and he said, I got it in. Anyway, I hope it never happens to anybody to have to do that, but if it does, I just hope that they have whatever it takes to get it, because you never know what you got until you got to do it. And I had the same experience with my daughter when she was 10. She's 41 now, and she actually stopped breathing from her asthma attack, and her heart stopped, and I had to do the same thing until paramedics got there. So it wasn't like I never had that experience, but the whole time that I'm doing this, I'm right back to when my daughter was 10, and that was, it's just like it's really emotional, But bottom line is that kid is going to graduate, that kid's going to go on and have a full life, and that kid is wearing chapstick. Well,
on behalf of the Board of Education, I just sincerely want to thank you. I know they wanted to recognize you immediately when I kind of shared the story. And then this evening we have a certificate to present to you. Just thanking you for your act of heroism. And then, unbeknownst to us, Jerry McNerney heard of your heroic act, and he sent a representative who's here in the audience to give you a congressional recognition on behalf of Jerry McNerney. So
thank you. Thank you so much.
Hand these off to you and give him some applause. I don't know if the board would like to.
She's not wearing chapstick.
We're gonna have a photo shot.